My ex looked me dead in the eye and said, "You'll never recover without me." I let her leave, ignored her messages, and quietly rebuilt my life. A year later, she showed up surprised to see me stronger, happier, and living freely without her. We'd been together almost 6 years, long enough that people assumed marriage was next, long enough that our lives had blurred into one shared calendar, one grocery list, one future that felt pre-written. She was sharp, confident, the kind of woman who always seemed 10 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. I admired that about her. At first, I was quieter, steadier. I liked routines. She liked disruption. Somewhere along the way, that turned into a dynamic where she decided what we needed, and I just agreed. It's easier this way, I told myself. Whenever I hesitated, she'd say things like, "Come on, you overthink everything." Or, "Trust me, I know what's best here." It didn't feel controlling back then. It felt like guidance, like love with direction. But slowly, my opinions became suggestions. My boundaries became inconveniences. And my confidence? That became something she joked about. "You'd forget your own head if I didn't remind you." She'd laugh in front of friends. Everyone laughed. I did too. "Don't be sensitive," I told myself. "She's just teasing." Except the teasing never went both ways. The cracks started showing about a year before she left. I'd lost my job after a company restructuring. It wasn't dramatic, just an email, HR language, a cardboard box. She hugged me that night, told me we'd figure it out. But a week later, the comments started. "So, did you apply anywhere today? You know, sitting around won't magically fix this. I just worry you're getting comfortable." Comfortable. I was sending out resumes until 2 a.m. every night. When I finally landed freelance work, she nodded like a manager approving an intern. "That's a start," she said. "Not 'I'm proud of you,' not 'I knew you could do it.' Just a start." By the time she left, I was already shrinking. I just didn't realize how small I'd become. After the breakup, the messages didn't stop. That was the worst part. She didn't ghost me. She hovered, random check-ins, late-night texts. "Just wanted to see if you're okay." But somehow, every conversation ended with a reminder of how lost I was without her. "You eating properly? Don't forget to pay your bills on time. You always struggled with structure." Once, when I mentioned I was thinking of moving apartments, she laughed. "Please, you can barely manage the place you're in." That's when it clicked. She wasn't worried about me. She was invested in me staying exactly where I was. The real punch came 3 months later. We ran into each other at a mutual friend's birthday. I hadn't planned to stay long, just show my face, be polite, leave early. She arrived late. Of course she did. Same confident walk, same effortless smile. She looked at me like I was a memory she'd already moved past. We made small talk, painful, shallow stuff. Then she leaned in, lowered her voice, and said, "So, how are you holding up? Be honest." I hesitated, then said, "I'm okay, taking things one step at a time." She smiled. Not kindly. "I figured you'd say that." Pause. "You always try to sound stronger than you are." I felt heat rush to my face. "What's that supposed to mean?" She tilted her head. "I just don't want you lying to yourself. You needed me more than you realized." That was the moment. Not anger, not sadness, clarity. I saw it all at once, the way she needed to be the benchmark, the way my weakness validated her strength, the way my dependence made her feel important. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just nodded, and she mistook that for agreement. That night, I went home and sat in the dark. No music, no phone, just me and the quiet. What if she's right? The thought crept in like it always did. Then another one followed. What if she needs that to be true? That question changed everything. I didn't announce anything, didn't post motivational quotes, didn't tell friends I was working on myself. I just started moving. Quietly, I updated my resume, took a contract that scared me. It paid less up front but offered growth, real growth. I stopped replying to her messages right away. Then I stopped replying at all. I joined a gym, not to transform my body, but to prove to myself I could commit to something without her commentary in my head. Every time I wanted to quit, I heard her voice. "You'll never recover without me." And every time, I stayed. Not out of spite, out of freedom. 6 months later, I heard through friends that she'd been asking about me. "Is he okay? What's he doing now? He hasn't reached out at all." Apparently, she was confused. That made me smile for the first time in a long while. A year after the breakup, she texted me. Just one message. "Hey. Long time, I heard you're doing well." I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I typed back, "I am. Nothing else. No explanation. No update. No emotional closure. Just the truth. She never replied. And that was enough. If you want me to continue with the next 1,000 words, say yes, and I'll keep going. Yes. 2 weeks after that text, I thought it was over. That's the thing about false endings, though. They feel quiet. Too quiet. I was sitting at my desk late one night, laptop open, half focused on a proposal I was supposed to send by morning. My phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen again. I didn't open it right away. I just stared. Why now? I thought. What changed? When I finally unlocked the phone, it wasn't another check-in. It wasn't concern. It was bait. I ran into someone who said, "You've changed." Didn't believe it at first. No emoji. No warmth. Just that. I smiled. Not because it felt good, but because I recognized the move. She wasn't reaching out to reconnect. She was checking whether the old buttons still worked. I typed. Deleted. Typed again. Then I locked the phone and went back to work. For the first time in years, I chose silence. That silence didn't sit well with her. A few days later, a longer message came through. I don't understand why you're acting like this. I was there for you when you had nothing, when you were lost. You don't just get to pretend I didn't matter. There it was. Not we mattered. Not what we had mattered. He mattered. I read it twice. Slowly. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel guilty. I felt relieved, because now I knew. This wasn't about closure. It was about control slipping through her fingers. I thought back to all the times she framed herself as my anchor. You'd be a mess without me. I keep you grounded. You need someone like me. I used to hear protection in those words. Now I heard possession. I never replied. And that's when things escalated. She started showing up in places she knew I'd be. The coffee shop near my apartment. The gym I went to early mornings. Once, even the co-working space I'd started using. Always accidental. Always surprised. "Oh wow, I didn't know you came here." Sure. The first time, I kept it polite. Short answers. No personal details. The second time, she lingered. "You look different," she said, eyes scanning my face. "Healthier, thanks," I said, already packing my bag. She hesitated. "You know, I always believed in your potential." I paused, looked at her. "No," I said calmly. "You believed in my dependence." Her smile froze. That was the first crack in her composure I'd ever seen. After that, the narrative changed. Friends started mentioning things casually. "She said you shut down after the breakup. She's worried you're isolating. She thinks you're pretending to be okay." I didn't defend myself. I let the silence speak. Because the people who actually knew me, they saw the difference. I was lighter, more present, less apologetic. I wasn't constantly explaining myself anymore. One night, a mutual friend asked me point blank, "Can I be honest?" I nodded. "She doesn't know who she is without you needing her." That sentence sat with me. So that's it, I thought. My growth wasn't just threatening, it was destabilizing. The final confrontation came unexpectedly. I was leaving the gym when she called my name. Not calmly, not sweetly, sharp, loud, desperate. I turned around. She looked different, tired, tense. The confidence felt forced now, like a mask slipping. "Why are you ignoring me?" she asked. People were around, watching. I kept my voice low. "I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not engaging." "That's the same thing," she snapped, then caught herself, lowered her tone. "I deserve an explanation." I shook my head. "No, you don't." Her eyes widened. "After everything I did for you?" I met her gaze. Steady, calm. "You didn't do things for me," I said. "You did them to me." Silence. Then she laughed. A sharp, brittle sound. "Wow, you really think you're better than me now?" I smiled, gently. "No," I said. "I think I'm better without you." That was it. No yelling. No dramatic exit. Just truth. She didn't reach out after that. But the rumors stopped too. And something else happened. People started asking me how I did it. "How'd you bounce back so fast? What changed? You seem grounded." I never told them everything. I just said, I stopped believing someone else got to define my limits. The funny thing is, I never set out to prove her wrong. I just wanted peace. But peace looks a lot like power when someone's used to owning your chaos. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear her voice in my head. "You'll never recover without me." And every time, I smile. Because she was right about one thing. I didn't recover. I rebuilt. If you want me to continue with the next 1,000 words, say yes and I'll keep going. Yes. The rebuilding didn't happen all at once. That's the part people don't like to hear. There was no montage where everything suddenly worked. No dramatic moment where I woke up healed and unstoppable. Most days were quiet, uneventful, just me choosing differently in small, almost boring ways. But those choices added up. I started saying no without explaining myself. I stopped apologizing for things that weren't mistakes. I let pauses exist in conversations instead of rushing to fill them. At first, it felt wrong, like I was being rude, cold. "You're changing," her voice whispered in my head. Good. About a year and a half after the breakup, something unexpected happened. She lost her job. I didn't hear it from her. I heard it from someone else, delivered casually, like gossip. "She's having a rough time," they said. "I think she's kind of lost." Lost. The word echoed. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel revenge. I felt understanding, because I'd been there, and I knew how disorienting it was when the thing you built your identity around suddenly disappeared. Except, I had built mine around myself. She had built hers around being needed. A few weeks later, she emailed me. An email. Long, thoughtful, carefully written. She apologized, or at least, she said the word. She talked about stress, pressure, how she didn't realize how certain things came across, how she was just trying to help. I read it twice, then I closed my laptop. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, because I didn't need her version of closure anymore. That was another lesson I hadn't expected. Closure isn't something someone gives you, it's something you stop waiting for. Around that time, my career finally stabilized. The contract turned into a long-term role, then a promotion, then another opportunity that came from someone who'd noticed my work months earlier. "You're reliable," they told me. "Calm under pressure." I almost laughed. For so long, I'd been told I fell apart. Turns out, I just needed space to stand. I moved apartments. Not because I had to, but because I wanted a place that felt like mine. No memories attached. No ghosts in the corners. The first night there, I sat on the floor eating takeout, surrounded by boxes, and I felt peaceful. No one telling me how to arrange the furniture. No one questioning my choices. No one monitoring my progress. Just me, and quiet, and possibility. One evening, months later, I ran into her again. This time, truly by accident. Same city, small world. She was at a bookstore I liked, standing in the philosophy section. Of course, she noticed me first. There was a flicker of something in her eyes. Surprise, then something else. Uncertainty. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. We stood there for a moment, surrounded by spines and silence. "You look good," she said. Not probing, not testing, just stating. "So do you," I said, and meant it. She nodded, hesitated, then smiled. "I guess you were right," she said quietly. "About what?" "About not needing me." I considered correcting her, but I didn't, because this wasn't about winning, it was about release. When I got home that night, I thought about the man I'd been when she left. Small, doubting, afraid of being alone, and I felt something close to gratitude, not for the pain, but for the clarity it forced. Here's the truth I don't say out loud very often. Some people don't want you broken, they want you dependent, because your dependence makes them feel whole, and when you stop needing them, it feels like betrayal even if you're just choosing yourself. I never told her she was wrong. I didn't need to. My life did that quietly. If you want me to continue with the next 1,000 words, say yes and I'll keep going toward the ending. US. The next phase wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was everything. I started building boundaries I'd never dared to before. Simple ones at first. Phone calls, texts, plans, tiny edges I could hold without collapsing. Each one reinforced a truth I hadn't allowed myself to see. I was enough on my own. I learned to enjoy my own company. Long walks without music, just my thoughts. Cooking without rushing to impress anyone. Sitting in a cafe with a book, letting strangers and time pass without interference. It was quiet, but it was freedom. And then came the real test. I met someone new, not deliberately, not to prove anything, just life happening. Her name was Mara. She had a laugh that filled the room in the softest way, a calm certainty that didn't demand I shrink or stretch. She wasn't loud. She didn't try to fix me. She just existed alongside me, equally grounded, equally flawed, equally real. We started talking, slowly. Dinner, walks, late-night calls. No pressure. No, I need you to be this way. Just companionship, respect. And with Mara, I discovered something I hadn't realized I'd lost. Joy without strings attached. One afternoon, about a year after the bookstore encounter with my ex, I ran into her again. She was at a small cafe, same side of the street as me. She spotted me immediately. This time, the surprise in her eyes wasn't tempered by confidence. It was curiosity, a flicker of uncertainty. "Hey," she said, softer than before. "Hey," I replied, equally calm. We talked briefly. Polite. Strangers now. There were no tests, no barbs, no thinly veiled lessons in dependence. Just a fleeting acknowledgement of shared history. Then she paused, looking at me with an unreadable expression. "You've changed," she said finally. I nodded. I had to. She smiled. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't smug. It was wistful. She understood, finally, that the game she had tried to play had ended. Not with a fight, not with an argument, but with me choosing me. We parted that day with a quiet nod. No words needed. No lingering attachments. The years after that felt lighter. I traveled, took risks I had avoided, signed contracts, explored hobbies, built friendships. Mara was there, yes, but the foundation of my life was no longer anyone else. It was me. I could give love freely because I had already learned to protect my own. Sometimes, I still hear the voice of my ex in my head. "You'll never recover without me." And every time, I smile, because she was right about one thing. I didn't recover. I rebuilt. Rebuilding doesn't look like revenge. It doesn't feel like victory. It's quiet, humble, deeply, profoundly satisfying, in ways the world rarely acknowledges. The freedom I bought for myself didn't come from shouting or proving anything. It came from choosing boundaries, choosing growth, choosing to stop letting someone else define my worth. Sometimes, I think of her. I hope she's okay. I hope she's learning the hard lessons she never allowed me to learn for her. But I don't need her anymore. I never did. And that's the ultimate irony. The person who claimed I couldn't survive without her taught me the most important lesson of my life. Survival isn't about who holds your hand. It's about discovering that you already have the strength in your own grip. I didn't lose her that day. I found myself.